What's up, everyone? This video, I'll be breaking down the first pay-per-view card of this year, UFC 311. We got Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. And co-main, we have Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. All right, get into the first fight. We got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. Clayton Carpenter just beat somebody for his first fight in the UFC. It was Lucas Rocha, which was a fun fight. Or a second fight. This will be his third fight in the UFC. Ronderos, I don't think is in the UFC anymore. Um, so Carpenter's been in the UFC for almost 2 years now, but he's only had two fights. Meanwhile, Tagir, on the other hand, has been in the UFC for at least got to be like 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. And in this matchup, Tagir will definitely have the experience edge. This is his sixth fight in the UFC. Everyone picking Tagir here. So 33 years old, so Tagir's older. He has a 1 inch height advantage and 3 inch reach advantage. Carpenter is a pretty decent fighter. As you see, he gets most of his wins by submission, but his striking is pretty decent. He has decent striking, so if he's gonna think that he can win this match by out grappling Tagir, that's totally false. He's not gonna out grapple Tagir in this fight. You see that most of Carpenter's wins. I mean, Chairez is a pretty decent seasoned UFC fighter now for flyweights. But if you look before Chairez, I mean, his record, the people that he's fighting are not that high level. 5-2, 3-1, 0-0, 1-3, and 1-2. So Tagir will definitely have the experience. I think Tagir is just better all around, honestly, if you ask me. He's going to be better in the grappling department here. He's going to be better with experience. He should have the strength advantage. And even though we don't know Tagir as a striker, he should have the striking advantage here. He's been in there with Durden, who's decent. Nate Maness is not in the UFC anymore, but still a decent fighter. Tim Elliott, we all know Tim Elliott, the seasoned vet. He's got a win over Alan Nascimento, which I think is a good win. Bruno Silva is a good win. We see Bruno Silva in the rankings now. So Tagir has some good wins. I think he should have the advantages in every department here. Striking, grappling, cardio, experience. Every box should check off for Tagir. So I'm gonna take Tagir here. Tagir's been getting finishes as of recently. He's on a two-fight finish streak, and Carpenter's undefeated. So this is not an it's not the easy fight for Tagir, but it's a harder fight for Clay Carpenter because Tagir is so experienced. What has the experience edge on him. And obviously training out of Dagestan with Khabib, you're a different breed over there. So I'm gonna pick Tagir here, but I think it's a closer fight than the lines say. I mean, minus 300, that's a pretty big favorite. I think this might be one of the biggest favorites that Tagir's been. I don't remember him being such a big favorite in a while. Yeah, see, even against Cody Durden, he wasn't a big favorite. Wasn't this big of a favorite against Nate Maness. It's gonna be the same with Tim Elliott. I mean, almost minus. So again, against Nascimento, he was a huge favorite. But other than that, he hasn't been this big of a. Oh, okay, so he's been this big of a favorite a few times, but not against the same competition. And like I said, Tagir should have the advantages in every box checked off here. I'm gonna pick him, but I'm gonna pick him by decision because Clayton Carpenter His last fight with Lucas Rocha was it was a dog fight, even though Carpenter won. It was somewhat a back and forth. I mean, Rocha didn't give up easily, so he made Carpenter work for the win. So I don't think that Clayton Carpenter will be easy to finish. So I'm gonna pick Tagir by decision. But Tagir should definitely win this fight. Next fight, we got Ricky Tercios versus Bernardo Sopai. Sopai is coming off his UFC debut loss against Vinicius Oliveira when he got knocked out cold with a flying knee. And Tercios is coming off a loss to Raul Rosas, I think. Yeah, we got choked out by Raul Rosas. And I've never rated Tercios highly, but I don't understand why Sopai is almost a minus 400 when he's only had one UFC fight, and the one UFC fight that he had, he got knocked out cold, and the guy that he's facing has way more UFC experience than him. So, yeah, I'm kind of confused there, especially when all the stat boxes are in favor of Tercios experience. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. And training at Team Alpha Male, he should have the better training partner than Alpha Male. So, and he's 7 years older, 7 years older than Sopai. And what some people don't understand is that when you're fighting at this high level in UFC, it's hard to beat fighters that are this much older than you when you're so young. I mean, we saw it against like Christian Rodriguez and Raul Rosas. No matter how good you are, it's hard to beat someone who's so much older than you because they're gonna have a different type of strength and obviously experience. So I'm leaning I'm gonna pick Sopai here, but I don't understand how this dude is almost a minus 400 after getting flatlined and facing against someone who's gonna have a height reach advantage on him and experience advantage. So I guess I'll lean Sopai by decision. I mean, there's not much to go off of for Sopai's fight, especially UFC. His competition hasn't been that good. 5-2-1, 5-1. I mean, those aren't bad, but 3-2, 5-1, 1-1, 4-1, 1-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0. So it's hard to gauge on how what Sopai's skill level is at. Obviously, the last fight he took against Vinicius Oliveira was short notice, and I rate Oliveira decent. I'm a fan of Oliveira. I love watching him fight, but as far as his skills go and his technicality goes, Oliveira is not one of the best technical fighters. And I mean, I'm not going to pick Tercios here, that's for sure. But I also don't really want to pick Sopai here. I mean, Tercios had a close fight with Natividad, was a split. You could argue that it went for Natividad, and close fight with Houston. You could say that Houston took it. Tercios has been in the UFC for almost 3.5 years and hasn't shown pretty much anyone anything besides two split decision wins, letting Ayman Zahabi start his comeback in the UFC and losing to Raul Rosas. So this is a fight that should play out on the feet. Sopai, even though in Sopai's last fight against Oliveira, he wrestled a lot, took Oliveira down, but that's because Oliveira is such a, like I said, Oliveira's not wasn't technical, but carries a lot of power and a dangerous striker. And I think that Sopai will be more comfortable to stand up on the feet with Tercios. So I think this fight will play out on the feet. Sopai should have The striking advantage, I'm not sure who's going to have the grappling advantage in this one because Tertius, even though he gets most of his work done on the feet, he is a decent grappler, decent. And I mean, Dan Argueta, that was a long time ago on the Ultimate Fighter. I remember watching that. Argueta's a really, really good wrestler. So being able to go 3 rounds and withhold from someone's wrestling like Argueta's, I think that Tertius should be able to withhold the wrestling of Sopai. However, I think Sopai will be more willing to strike in this fight than he was his last fight. So I think this fight will play on the feet, and I'll take Sopai being the cleaner striker for 3 rounds. So I'll take Sopai by decision. Next fight, this should be a really, really good fight. We got Rinya Nakamura versus Muin Gafurov. Nakamura, I think this is maybe his third fight in the UFC or fourth fight. So fourth fight, he had a really good knockout win, like flatline this guy Kazama in his first UFC fight. He beat Fernie Garcia. I don't think Garcia's in the UFC anymore. Definitely not. And I don't think that Carlos Vera's in the UFC anymore. He had one fight in the UFC coming off the Ultimate Fighter, but I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. So, but I do highly rate Nakamura. Nakamura is a good striker, decent grappler. He carries a lot of power in his strikes. And he's going up against Muin Gafurov, who's decent striker himself, but can grapple. He's coming off a win to Kyung Ho Kang. He lost to Said Nurmagomedov, lost to John Castaneda, who I don't think is in the UFC anymore. So this will be Gafurov's fourth fight. So this will both be their fourth fight in the UFC. However, I think that Gafurov will have the experience edge. I mean, he's fought guys like John Lineker, who's still fighting in MMA today, has tons of MMA experience, used to fight in the UFC. And Saeed Nurmagomedov season one, I think it's 135, right? Yeah, season 135er. And Allinger, pretty seasoned. Beat Brady Easton. I mean, he's got some season wins. So I think that in this fight that Gafurov is definitely the more experienced fighter. He will probably have the grappling. He should have the grappling edge in this fight. However, what plays into Nakamura is his power and his striking. His striking is really not like good striking, man. I always like to watch this guy fight. I watched his Road to UFC fight against Shohei Knows, and after that, I haven't missed a fight because this guy is just so fun to watch. He's a guy that I mean, he's fan friendly. Obviously, when most UFC fans they watch a fight, they want to see someone just throw down. So, and that's what you see when you watch Nakamura. Same height, same reach. This is I get that Nakamura has been a pretty huge favorite coming into pretty much all of his UFC fights, but I think that this fight is way closer than the odds say. Minus 500, they're giving Gafurov maybe 2 rounds to knock it 2 rounds and he's getting finished. So, but I think that this fight can go a 3 round decision, especially with the way that Gafurov fights. He can be patient. Gafurov's patient fighter, but he does, he can make it a fight. Like he's not scared to go in there and make it an exciting fight. He's not scared to finish somebody or get finished. That's crazy to say, but it's the truth. Like I said, he's gonna have the experience edge in this fight, so I think this fight's way closer than the Lions say. But I'm still gonna pick Nakamura. I think that Gafurov is tough enough to not get knocked out. He got a good enough chin to not get knocked out in this fight. I could be wrong, but from what I've seen from Gafurov's fight, from his UFC fights, is that he has a decent chin. He has good enough wrestling to know when to use it and keep him out of trouble. So I think this will be a fight that Nakamura gains a lot of experience from fighting a seasoned fighter who has 25 fights. And but I think that Nakamura will just have the sharper striking and huge power edge. So I'm gonna take Nakamura here by decision. Maybe a late finish, like third round knockout. So, but this would be a really good fight. I'm excited for this fight right here. This will be a good fight. I get it's a woman's fight, but still, we got Carol Hosa versus Aline Perez, and same height, 1.5 inch reach advantage for Carol Hosa. Carol Hosa in this fight will definitely have the experience edge. She got 10 UFC fights. This will be her 11th. I think this will maybe be Perez's like fourth or fifth. Okay, her sixth, but still not the experience of Carol Hosa. Perez is coming off that win against Daria Zelzhennikova, where she did find a finish late in round one, but she was kind of getting touched up, and it was kind of it was difficult for Perez to find her takedowns like as she usually does compared to when she fought Jocelyn Edwards, Lucy Pudilova, Ashley Evans Smith. She was finding takedowns at ease. I mean, whenever she wanted to take her opponent down, she would take him down. So, and we got Kara Hosa, who's coming off a win against Pannie Kianzad, who just got cut after that last UFC fight. Carol Hosa is a fighter who is a very exciting fighter. She loves to go in there and strike. She had a war with Irene Aldana, a war with Norma Dumont. So usually when Carol Hosa goes in there, it's going to be a war. You're going to see blood. And I like watching her fight. She's a very exciting fighter. And in this matchup, she's gonna have not that big of a reach advantage, but she's gonna have a reach advantage and definitely an experience advantage. However, I think that Perez will have the grappling advantage in this one because we see that Perez, she likes to wrestle. She'll go in there and strike, but her bread and butter is what you wouldn't expect is wrestling. Like when she gets someone down, it's very hard for them to get up. And usually Perez can find dominant positions, get off the ground and pound, and try to find a submission. So that's what I see. That's how I see this fight playing out, just like all of Perez's other fights. I get that Perez is a plus 200 dog, and Kara Hosa will probably have the sharper striking than Perez. However, I think that she's been on a run ever since losing her first. I think that was her first UFC fight she lost, right? Yeah, she lost her first UFC fight, and since then she's on a 4-fight win streak. So, and that's not easy to do in any division, men or women's, but especially 135 for women's because women's bantamweight it's decent. It's decent. Not the best. It's not good as flyweight or strawweight, but I mean they got some you got some decent competition in 135ers for women. So I see this fight playing out like most of most of Eileen Perez's other fights. Carol Hosa will be the one trying to stay the cleaner striker for 3 rounds, while Perez will be the one trying to take Hosa down. And I think that Hosa, even though she can grapple, I think that Perez will just be too strong and won't be able to, and she'll be able to find dominant positions on the ground like she has in all of her other fights. So I'm gonna pick Perez here by decision. I don't really see Hosa getting finished. I mean, maybe Perez can find a submission, but there's no way that Perez will be able to knock Hosa out because Hosa, good striking, good chin. She holds the experience edge, so she'll definitely know what to do in this fight. But I think that Perez will just be better on the ground. So give me Perez here by decision. Next fight, we got Zach Reese versus Azamat Bakoev. And this is a last minute replacement for Reese. Reese was supposed to be fighting Cedric Dumas. And we got Azamat Bakoev stepping up. He's coming off a good knockout win that I just saw over Chauncey Foxworth. I'm not sure really who that is, but I did watch that last LFA fight, and that was a good knockout. He's beat current UFC fighter Dylan Budka, former this guy fought in contenders. He fought Cesar Almeida and lost, but so Bakoyev will definitely have. I get that this is Reese's what like third UFC fight, his fourth. His first fight he got knocked out by Cody Brundage with the slam, which was nasty. Then he beat Marquez, who's not one of the best fighters, and he beat Jose Medina in Medina's first UFC fight, who was also not one of the best fighters. We saw Medina lose on Contender Series and still got a contract. So I get that Reese has the UFC, I mean the UFC experience, but as far as MMA competition goes and fighting, I'm definitely gonna give it to Bakoyev. And Reese is has a lot of first round finishes. He's got one win by decision. So I'm not really sure about this guy's cardio, about this guy's durability. I mean, I get that he's looked better since his first UFC loss, but when you get slammed like that, I mean, it usually means that when you get knocked out like that after a slam, it usually means that you have some problems either with your chin or your durability. Like it's basically the same thing, but I'm gonna pick right off the bat, I'm gonna pick Bakoyev here. I think that Reese should not have taken this fight on short notice. And let me look at the stats here. It's basically split. Everyone before when it was Reese versus Dumas, everyone was picking Reese. And Bakoyev's coming here at minus 250, man. That's crazy. And I get why though. I mean, Bakoyev's a good fighter. I've seen maybe two or three of his fights, and he is a good fighter. But for him to come in against someone who has more UFC experience than him, someone who's 5 inches taller than him, got a 5 inch reach advantage on him. I don't get why he's minus almost a minus a 250 dog. I mean favorite, excuse me. Um, I do think that Bakoyev will win. I think that Bakoyev definitely will have the grappling advantage. Had the advantage in I get not UFC experience, but he has the edge in experience, edge in cardio, conditioning, chin, durability, and he should have the advantage in striking. So Reeds can hold his own on the ground, but I think that Bakoyev is just better pretty much everywhere. Like I said, every department, Bakoyev should be better. And I think that Bakoyev should be able to find a finish here. If not, Bakoyev should be able to, if Bakoyev does not find a finish by knockout or submission, he should definitely be able to just be the more well-rounded MMA fighter for 3 rounds compared to Reese. So I'm going to pick Bakoyev here. I could see Bakoyev getting a finish by knockout or submission in any round, really. Um, so yeah, give me Bakoyev really any way he wants, respectfully. If he wants to win by decision, I think that he should be able to win by decision. If he wants to go out there and really hunt a finish, I think he should be able to find a finish. So I'm gonna pick Bakoyev here, knockout or submission rounds, maybe like two or three. Next fight, we got Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. Diego Carlos Ferreira. Or is it Carlos Diego Ferreira? Carlos Diego Ferreira. This would be a really good fight, and I don't get why Grant Dawson's almost a mine. Like all these lines on this whole card are crazy to me, man. They're just absolutely insane. Grant Dawson, I get that. Oh, it's gonna be Ferreira's birthday coming fight night. Dawson, 10 years younger, 1 inch height advantage, 2 inch reach disadvantage. In this fight, Fajeda will definitely have the UFC experience This will be his 16th UFC fight compared to Dawson, his 11th, or no, his this will be his 13th. So not that much more experience for Fajeda, but I think that Fajeda has fought the higher level competition in the UFC, like Poirier, Beneil twice, Gregor Gillespie when he was in the UFC, he was a good prospect. Gamrot, Mateusz Rebecki, Michael Johnson, Pettis. So I would definitely give the experience edge to Fajeda compared to Dawson, who's really only fought a high level fighter, maybe like Ismagulov, Bobby Green. That's pretty much it. Everyone picking Dawson here, which kind of surprises me because I don't know how this fight will play out. We got kind of like versus a grappler striker, I guess. But Hayter's coming off that win against Rybeski, where he was pretty like underdog like this against Rybeski, and he won and pretty much dominated. I mean, Rybeski caught Fajeda a few times, but I mean, Fajeda looked pretty good in that fight, if you ask me, especially for 40 years old. So I really want to pick Fajeda in this fight. I really do. But this would be like a hard fight to pick. Dawson did look good in his last fight against Rafa Garcia, but Rafa Garcia is also like 5'6". Yeah, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. So, and Dawson has is 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. So he really held all the advantages, I think, in that fight against Rafa Garcia. And I feel like most of the fights that Grant Dawson has, he has the advantages. Do I think that this is an interesting fight, man? Really interesting fight because, as we know, Grant Dawson loves to grapple, loves to wrestle. However, Fajeda can wrestle himself. Like he can grapple too. Fajeda goes in there and prefers to strike, but he's a good grappler. Like he's a really good grappler. We've seen Fajeda get taken down, but he's usually always able to get back, find a way back up and get his strikes off. Whew, this is a hard fight to pick. I get Dawson's at minus 300 basically, and you would say it's easy. You should pick Dawson, but it's like, dude, Dawson got fraud checked against Bobby Green. I knew he was gonna get fraud checked that fight too. And I've never really rated Dawson so that highly. He's a decent fighter. He knows when to grapple. I mean, that's really all he does is grapple. He doesn't really want to go in there and strike. He has decent cardio. He's been getting better each of his fights, but like I said, Fajeda had the experience edge. He's only going to be at a 1 inch height disadvantage, but he's going to have a 2 inch reach advantage, and that plays into favor of Fajeda having the advantage because he's definitely the fighter in this matchup that wants to strike more. Dawson's not going to go in there and want to strike with Fajeda. Fajeda, he has power, clean striker. He's durable, and he has the experience edge. So even though this is you would think this is an easy fight to pick based on the odds, it's a hard fight for me to pick. I'm gonna pick Fajeda, man. I'm gonna pick him. I think that he will be able to. If Dawson takes him down, I think that Fajeda will be able to get up, get his strikes off, maybe even find a finish. Who knows? He might be able to tire out Grant Dawson, and I can't really go against the birthday boy. Come fight night, it's gonna be his birthday, 40 years old. So I'm gonna pick Fajeda either by knockout, maybe like a round two, three knockout or decision. I'm picking the birthday boy. Next fight, we got a last minute replacement. We got Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elikana. And Elikana's coming in as a huge dog. Rightfully so. He's taking this fight last minute. This is his first UFC fight. He's fought in the PFL before. But other than that, this is the big leagues for the real big leagues for Elikana. And he's going up against someone who has really good boxing, good striking in Guskov, and going up against someone who has way more experience fighting MMA than him and in the UFC. So right off the bat, I'm gonna pick Guskov here. I think that Guskov will carry the advantages pretty much everywhere. He's gonna be at a 1 inch height advantage, a 1 inch reach disadvantage. But he's the more experienced fighter. I think that he's the better, even though Guskov does not really grapple. I think that Guskov will be the better grappler, definitely the better striker, more durable fighter, and like did I say experience? I should have said experience already, and the more conditioned fighter. Guskov had a full camp for this one. I get it's a last minute replacement, but still had a full camp, full time to train compared to Elikana, who's maybe had who knows how long. I don't know how long this guy's been training for this fight. So I'm gonna definitely pick Guskov here. This fight should be a fight that plays out on the feet. Should be just a striking matchup right here. And I think that Guskov is the way more technical, cleaner striker on the feet. I think that Guskov, realistically, with his experience and with his MMA skills, he should be able to find a finish basically anywhere that he wants. I get that Guskov does not have, he's only has two submissions. But if Guskov wants to go in there and wrestle against Elikana, he should be able to. So he's going to carry the power edge pretty much in every department. Guskov will have the advantage. So I'm going to pick Guskov here, and he should be able to find a finish by knockout here, rounds 1 or 2, pretty early. Pretty early, he should be able to find a finish. So I'm going to pick Guskov here, most definitely. Should be a fight that plays out on the feet, and therefore Guskov should be the better fighter on the feet. That's why I'm picking him. Next fight, we got Jailton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. We got grappler versus grappler in this matchup. Even though you would think that most people don't really like watching Almeida fight or Spivak, I like watching them both fight because they're both very dominant grapplers. And almost minus 500 for Almeida, who got exposed against Curtis Blades. I don't even want to say he was exposed in that fight because after the fight with Derek Lewis, that's the fight where most people were like, okay, this guy is not the guy that we thought he was. This will be Jailton's eighth UFC fight. I think Spivak definitely has more. Let's see. Yep, he has 12. So UFC experience will go to Spivak. Same height for these guys. 79-inch reach compared to 78, so 1 inch reach advantage for Almeida. And it's really hard to say who will have the grappling edge in this fight. And it's hard to say will have the striking edge in this fight because usually when we see both these guys go into a fight, we see them trying to take their opponent down and not really strike like at all. So 7 wins by knockout for Spivak and 7 for Almeida. 13 submissions for Almeida and 8 for Spivak. The way that I would compare both of these guys grappling is I see that Almeida is a type of grappler who usually tries to find a submission, tries to take you down and tries to choke you out. Whether he'll try to get on top of you, make you give up your back, and then choke you out, or he'll just straight go for your back and try to choke you out. So Almeida is a type of grappler that he tries to let you make a mistake and he takes what's given to him on the ground. Compared to Spivak, when I see Spivak grapple, he's a grappler that looks for dominant positions to reign off ground and pound. Spivak does have a good submission game of his own, but he's more of like a ground and pound type grappler. If he gets you in full mount, he's gonna rain down shots, really, and try and keep raining down shots, and either until you give up a submission or until the ref stops the fight from him striking with ground and pound. So these are two really good grapplers here. I mean, if you're someone who likes to watch grapplers like grappling fights, this is your delight right here because we got two really good grapplers for heavyweights, like really good grapplers for heavyweights. If their striking was as good as their grappling, they would be probably be both be champion because these guys are really good grapplers. Grapplers, that's it. Spivak has been a little bit chinny. He's shown that he can be chinny in a few fights. He got knocked out by Cyril Gahn. He got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. So it's like when he faces a really good striker, he's bound to get knocked out. And that's the thing though, in this fight, he's not really facing that good of a striker. Maybe Almeida will have the advantage striking in this matchup, but I really don't know who has the grappling advantage. I compared their styles of grappling. Almeida more of a submission grappler compared to Spivak, who likes to get ground and pound when he's grappling. And it's a tough fight to pick because I think that Almeida will have the slight advantages maybe in both departments with grappling and striking ever so slightly, but Spivak does have the experience edge in this one. He's fought pretty much like a lot, so almost every heavyweight in the division, so he will definitely have the experience in this fight, experience edge in this fight. I mean, Tybura fight, Spivak, that was a rematch for Spivak in the first fight. He lost. It was a good win to submit Tybura. Spivak did look good in that fight. And Almeida's last fight against Romanov, he looked decent. I mean, compared to what he looked like against Curtis Blades, he looked better. But this is a really hard fight for me to pick. I get that Almeida's a minus 500. Oh, it's easy for Almeida. It's easy money line for Almeida. Easy win for Almeida. He's a minus 500, but sheesh. I mean, what was Almeida against Curtis Blades? He was had to have been like a minus 300, right? Oh, okay. Oh, damn. He was that. Damn. I thought he would have been a way bigger favorite, but it is what it is. Um, I'm gonna pick Almeida here, but as far as odds go, I think this is a way closer fight than the odds say. I think that maybe Almeida should be like a minus 200, maybe like a yeah, like a minus 200. So a decent favorite, but definitely not a favorite to where the line reads that Almeida should be able to knock this guy out or submit him in 3 minutes in the first round. So I'm gonna pick Almeida here. I don't know how this fight's gonna play out with two dominant grapplers. It's really up to who's gonna initiate the grappling and who's more comfortable if they get put on their back. I'm gonna pick Almeida here. I think this will be like a wrestling match for 3 rounds, honestly. It depends on who really gets tired first, too, because especially if they're grappling, these two heavy guys, it's really just depends on who gets tired first. So I'm gonna pick Almeida here, but ever so slightly. I don't think that he should be this big of a favorite. A minus 500. Hope he proves me wrong, and I hope he does get a finish early, but I don't think that it will be that easy for Almeida. But this should be a really good fight, especially if you like to watch grappling. So I'm excited for this fight. Like I said, I'm gonna pick Almeida. I guess submission or decision. I don't really find him seeing him get a knockout. So yeah, I'll pick Almeida. Next fight right off the bat. This doesn't really take that much of a breakdown. We got Peyton Talbot versus Raoni Barcelos. Barcelos coming off that win, I think, to give, was it Victor Henry? Oh, that was a long, long, long time ago. I'm thinking of that fight. Wow. He's coming off a win against Christian Quinones, who I don't think is in the UFC anymore. Huge underdog in this fight. Barcelos is. We've seen Barcelos take some kind of bad losses. He lost to Victor Henry, who's not that, respectfully, not that good. Trevin Jones, who's not in the UFC anymore, got knocked out, flatlined by Umar, and he got beat by Kyler Phillips, who Kyler Phillips just lost to Rob Font. Yeah, so kind of some. I mean, I don't think it's a bad to lose to Umar, but losing to Phillips and Henry, not the best. Everyone picking Talbot here, rightfully so. I think that the only place that Barcelos will have the advantage here is in the grappling department and I mean, obviously the experience because this will be his 11th UFC fight compared to Talbot's maybe fourth. Yeah, this would be Talbot's fourth. So I think the only place that Barcelos will have the advantage is experience and grappling. Everything else plays in the Talbot's favor. Striking, durability, conditioning, youth. I mean, he's 11 years younger than Barcelos. 3 inch height advantage, 3 inch reach advantage. Everything's playing in the favor here, in favor of Talbot here. So I'm gonna pick. I mean, this is not taking much breakdown. Barcelos has been on the drop off, on the decline. His past, like as you see, 3 UFC fights. I get he won that fight, but still, he's been on the decline. He's not the Hani Barcelos that I knew 4 years ago. So, or 5 years ago, yeah, 4 or 5 years ago. So I think that yeah, Talbot should be able to find a finish a knockout here pretty like quick. Rounds 1 or 2 knockout. Peyton should be able to find it. This I mean I know Honey like I said Honey will have the grappling experience edge. He will have the grappling edge. However, Barcelos, we don't really see Barcelos go in there and try to wrestle guys. Like he'll wrestle if he needs to. If he gets stung and he gets hurt, or he's clearly not winning on the feet, he'll try to grapple. But I don't think he's gonna try to go in there and try to wrestle Talbot. If he's smart, he will. If he's smart, he'll shoot for a takedown right away. But I think that Barcelos is a man of the people, and he's gonna go out there and put on a show. He's gonna go out there and strike with this with Talbot. So, and we all know Talbot loves to strike. Talbot ain't gonna go in there and try to wrestle you. So I think that Talbot should be able to find a finish here pretty early, rounds 1 and 2 knockout. With the way that Barcelos' durability has dropped off, tend to slow down, has some cardio problems. He's just getting old, man. He's about to be 38. So everything playing in favor of Talbot here. I'm gonna pick Talbot here pretty easily, rounds 1, 2 knockout. That's pretty much it. Like there's not much to say about this fight and break it down. Whether Barcelos tries to go in there and strike with Talbot or if he tries to go in there and wrestle Talbot, he's gonna probably get knocked out. So I don't see this fight going all 3 rounds. Talbot is a good striker, has good power for 135. Like for bantamweights, he has good power, so should be able to find a finish. Talbot pretty easily here. Next fight, I'm excited for this one too. We got Kevin Holland versus Renier de Ridder, and I've met Kevin Holland before. Big Kevin Holland fan. I've seen Kevin Holland fight multiple times in person. I saw him fight Chimaev. I saw him fight JDM at Noche UFC. However, I'm gonna pick the Ritter here. 1 inch height advantage for the Ritter and 3 inch 3 inch reach advantage for the Ritter. The Ritter is second fight in the UFC. And this is Holland's like this is Holland's 20 set or 23rd UFC fight. And I think that the Ritter, he's a confusing fighter. He sometimes he looks really good, other times he looks really bad. Obviously, we know him as a grappler. He likes to go in there and grapple. He's got 13 wins by submission compared to Holland, who has most of his wins by knockout. He's got 13 by knockout. And weird fight, the Ritter's last fight against Gerald Meerschaert. He did win and found a finish, but it was a weird fight. It's always weird when the Ritter fights. I've seen the Ritter fight since his La and Song fight. This one right here. This one is when I started watching all of the Ritter's fights. I haven't missed a Ritter fight since this first fight right here against La and Song. And I watched him lose. I knew he was gonna lose to Malakin. Actually, no, this fight I did not think he was gonna lose to Malakin. But after I saw him lose when he got knocked out, I knew he was not gonna win against Malakin ever again. So I'm glad that the Ritter's in the UFC now. He's going to be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage, a 1-inch height advantage. At first, Kevin Holland was like a pretty decent favorite in this fight, but line has moved. Obviously, the experience edge goes to Kevin Holland here. Like I said, he's got 23 UFC fights. That's crazy. He's coming off a weird fight with the Leadze. Before that, Olashaychik got knocked down, but ended up finding the armbar. As of recently, I haven't really been too impressed with Kevin Holland. I'm gonna pick the Ritter here. I think the Ritter will have the grappling advantage, but Kevin Holland will definitely have the striking advantage. It's all up to whether the Ritter can get Holland to the ground and control, if he can control Holland on the ground and find a submission. Kevin Holland is not easy to submit. Obviously, he has good grappling himself. We've seen him submit people before. He submitted Michael Chiesa, who's a really good grappler. He submitted what's his name? Olashaychik. He submitted Tim Means. So he had decent grappling himself. He withheld the grappling of Jacare Souza. And it's all weather up to what type of Kevin Holland we see on Saturday night. Are we gonna see the Kevin Holland who smarts or fights smart, or the Kevin Holland who just goes on there and does whatever and doesn't really care about what happens at the end of the fight? So it's a hard fight to pick. I'm gonna pick the Ritter. I think the Ritter will somehow, some way be able to find a win because I did pick the Ritter in his last fight against Amir Sharp, but watching that fight and what was going on, I don't know how he got that win. So, but the dude somehow finds a way to win. It reminds me of DDP. He fights technically not good and looks like a bar fight, but somehow finds a way to win the bar fight. So, um, gonna pick the Ritter here. I don't think that maybe the Ritter can find a submission, just maybe. But I think that Kevin Holland's grappling should be decent enough that he'll just get controlled on the ground by the Ritter. But this would be a really good fight, regardless of who you got winning. So I'm gonna pick the Ritter here by decision, maybe a third round, second round submission. Next fight, we got Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Moicano's coming off that dominant win against BSD. Bennett's coming off a knockout loss to Arman Tsarukyan. And Both 35 years old, 1 inch height advantage for Moicano, same reach, grappling edge. I gotta give to Moicano in this fight, and then I gotta give the striking edge to Dariush. And it's hard to say. I'm gonna pick Moicano in this fight, but we got two good grapplers and two decent, like they're both decent strikers. I think that Benny has the advantage in striking, but Benny is also really good in wrestling, so and grappling. So it's a hard fight to pick. I know Mike Moicano's been on a tear recently, but Benny's high level. Benny's a high level fight. I get that he's been finished his last two fights by knockout, which is not good, but he's still high level fighter. So it's hard, and it's also to predict how this fight will play out because Moicano, as we know, he likes to grapple, but same with Dariush. Dariush likes to grapple. Both will go in there, they'll throw hands, but most of them got their wins by grappling. You got 8 subs for Benny and probably like 10 or 12. Okay, so yeah, 10. 10 for Moicano. So this is a closely matched fight. I think that Moicano's just been on a good run and he's hard to beat right now. So I think that Moicano will be able to win a decision here. I don't see him finding a finish here in this fight, but I think that it's a close fight. I think that Moicano should just be better for 3 rounds. So I'm gonna pick Moicano here by decision. Should be a fight that probably is a striking battle for 3 rounds. And maybe Moicano's the one trying to grapple, but I think that Benny should be able to defend the grappling exchanges from Moicano. And I think that Moicano should just be cleaner for 3 rounds, better MMA fighter for 3 rounds. So I'm gonna pick Moicano in this fight. Next fight, we got another banger. We got Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill, and Jamal Hill's obviously coming off his knockout loss at UFC 300 to Alex Pereira. And Yuri's coming off his knockout loss to Alex Pereira. Uh, this is a hard fight to pick. Usually I was gonna pick Yuri. Originally I was gonna pick Yuri here. And I want to pick Yuri here. But Yuri's gonna have 1 inch height disadvantage, but a 1 inch reach advantage. And he's gonna have, I think Yuri 12 UFC fights. Jamal only only got 9. So Yuri has the advantage as far as experience goes. And I think that Yuri has fought the better competition in UFC, fought Dominic Reyes, Volkan Ozdemir, and I mean they both fought Glover. They both fought Alex Pereira. So I would say Yuri slightly has the experience edge. Striking edge, pure striking, kicks, elbows, knees, punches. I give it to Yuri, but it's hard because Yuri does not have good striking defense. His striking defense is not that good. He gets hit with a lot of shots. I mean, he got knocked out against Dominic Reyes, but he woke back up with the upkick. He got knocked out with the upkick, but he woke back up and just gets tagged in a lot of fights. He was getting tagged against Glover. Obviously, got knocked out and tagged by Pereira twice, but he also was getting tagged in the Rockets fight. So that's why in this fight, this should definitely be a fight that plays out on the feet. Should be a striking battle for this is a 3 rounder, right? This is a three rounder. Oh, it's 5 rounds. Oh no, 3 rounds. Yeah, it's 3 rounds. So I think that Jamal Hill should be the cleaner striker for 3 rounds compared to Yuri. And I'm gonna pick Hill in this fight. Surprisingly so. Usually I would pick Yuri. I love watching Yuri fight. Yuri's so exciting. But what has always worried me with Yuri has been his striking defense. So I can't pick him in this fight, even though Jamal Hill usually comes in extremely out of shape in his fights, slow, and all of the above. I just got to pick him in this fight because Yuri's striking defense has always worried me. So, and I think that Yuri would be better off at middleweight maybe. I get that he might be a little he's pretty big, but I could see Yuri fighting at middleweight and having some good success. So, especially if he loses here, he might have to start thinking about it. So I'm gonna pick Jamal here. Jamal Hill, maybe by knockout, should be the cleaner striker for 3 rounds, but who knows? Maybe Yuri gets caught as he has in his past fights and gets knocked out. So I'm gonna pick Jamal Hill by decision, maybe rounds 2 or 3 knockout. Next fight, we got the co-main. We got Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar, 2 inch height advantage, 1 inch reach advantage, and it's gonna have the youth advantage, but Merab will definitely have the experience advantage. This will be Merab's 14th UFC fight compared to Umar's maybe like sixth. Okay, seventh. And striking edge in this fight definitely goes to Umar. However, cardio, experience, and strictly wrestling, not like grappling, jujitsu on the ground, strictly wrestling advantage is for Merab. I'm gonna pick Umar on this fight. I think that Umar should be able to defend grappling exchanges from Merab. Think that Merab really, if he wants to win this fight, he really has to push the pace non-stop, shooting takedowns like he did against Peter Yan, against Jose Aldo. The only way that Merab can win this fight is if he holds Umar on the fence, like Merab does in some of his fights. But I think that Umar should, like Umar is fast, and I mean he's a Nurmagomedov man. I think he's just gonna be champion. So he should be able to stay away from the grappling from Merab and should be just be able to get his strikes off for 5 rounds. I don't see any fighter getting a finish here at all really. So I think that Umar will just be the cleaner MMA fighter for 5 rounds. Umar will be the one trying to strike, and Merab will be the one trying to wrestle. So I'm gonna pick Umar here. Everything, I think just pretty much everything besides experience and obviously the cardio plays in favor of Umar. So I'm gonna pick Umar by decision. Last fight, we got the main event. We got Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. And I'm a huge Arman Tsarukyan fan. He is definitely um probably my top two favorite fighters. Him and Ilya Topuria have been in my favorite fighters for like the past ever since like 2020, I would say. 20 because I don't think that Topuria wasn't in the UFC in 2019, but Arman was. So I guess you could say I liked Arman first, but kind of like I like Topuria more. And but those are my two favorites, and they have been for close to 5 years now. So I'm definitely rooting for Arman in this fight. And I think that Arman is the better striker in this fight. The risk right here, 305, does not make sense to me. 400 does not make sense to me at all. It was, I think that Makhachev was a bigger favorite against, I mean, wasn't even this big of a favorite against Poirier, which doesn't make sense to me because Arman's way better than Poirier, if you ask me. And I can't believe Arman's only 28 compared to Islam's 20 or 33, excuse me. So Islam, he's gonna have the UFC experience here. 16 wins or 15, 16 fights. This will be his 17th fight. Only 11 fights for Arman. Arman, 3-inch height disadvantage, but a 2-inch reach advantage for Arman. Like I said, Arman will have the striking advantage in this fight and a slight advantage of grappling for Makhachev. But I really think that Arman can get it done here. So I'm rooting for Arman. My brain says Makhachev, but my heart definitely says Arman Tsarukyan. So I'm rooting for Arman. I'm gonna pick him, man. I'm hoping with everything that he wins. I don't think that that last fight he lost against Gamrot, he shouldn't have lost that fight. It was a bad judging for if my decision, in my opinion. So we've seen what he can do to people when he gets them on the ground, control them, and just beat the crap out of them with ground and pound. He did it to Giagos, to Joel Alvarez, to Joaquin Silva. So yeah, I'm gonna pick. It's a hard fight to pick, obviously. I mean, most people are gonna be picking Makhachev here, and rightfully so. He's a champion coming from Dagestan. Those guys are different out there, as we all know. And but I just think that Arman, he's really coming to his full game now. He's becoming Arman that I thought he could be. So I think that he had to take that loss to Gamrot in order to get better. So I'm gonna pick Arman here. I don't see any fighter being able to find a win by submission. I mean, I don't unless only way that Islam can win by submission against Arman is he has to choke him out cold because we saw against Oliveira that Saryukyan's not tapping to any submission. So Makhachev, if he wants to find a submission, he's gonna have to choke Arman out cold. And I mean, we've seen Arman get rocked. He got rocked against Joaquin Silva, and I think there was one more fight he got rocked in. Maybe not. No, he just got rocked against Joaquin Silva. But we've also seen Makhachev get rocked. I mean, we've seen Makhachev get flatlined out cold against Adriano Martins. And what's his name? I don't want to say that Makhachev got rocked, but he got tagged with some shots against Volkanovski, and he was getting tagged with some shots against Poirier. So I think that maybe Arman will be able to find his moments in the striking against Makhachev. And if if Arman wants to win this fight, he cannot be the one initiating grappling. He has to be the one staying on the outside and outstriking Makhachev for 5 rounds. It's bad news when he goes to the ground and tries to wrestle with Makhachev, and we saw that in their first fight when uh, Arman tried to grapple with Makhachev. He was just making mistakes that he didn't need to make. So I think that Arman will have learned from not only those mistakes in the first fight, but from all of his UFC fights since then. So I think that hoping that Arman will win, and I think that he will win. So I'm gonna pick Saryuki on here by decision. But whoever wins should be a really good fight. I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for the whole card because this card is really good. But I think that Arman will win, and I'm rooting for him. So let's go, Arman.